Hello, we are
communications enthusiasts.
My name is Shai,
And I'm Fiona.
and for this episode, we'll be covering the role of values and identities, and this focuses on where you come from, your ethnicity, your religion, and your language, and so much more. Identities and values are what makes us us.
Values are a group of characteristics, ideas, or areas in life that are important to you. Your values can vary depending on your identity, and we are going to explore a piece of our identity as Catholics on Ash Wednesday, and we are going to a Spanish Mass.
So follow along.
Gelato break on our way to St. Genesis Church.
Wow, that was a super different service from what I was used to. It was all in Spanish, which was super new. But on top of that, the priest rang the bell, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's new. Like, he rang the bell when he was blessing the Eucharist. And then also, the choir was behind us on top in this pew, so you could literally look up behind you and see them, which was insane. It was beautiful church, too.
So it's definitely cool to see identity at play, especially for religion and specifically like Spanish values and Catholicism. So Fiona, what other identities or values are important to you?
So to me, other than my Catholic identity, I think it's also important that I am a daughter of an Irish immigrant. I think that factors heavily into how I interact with people and specifically who I identify with. On top of that, I'm a Gonzaga student, and it's connected me with people like Shai because she's also a Gonzaga student. So Shai, what values are important to you?
For me, it has to be like the value of culture, because I'm also like Mexican Native American, so just
Yes.
keeping that practice, as well as like family values and like always being there for my parents and siblings and grandparents.
Yes.
I think identity is important because it makes us unique, but also gives us something to like identify as. And there's also a lot of identities that are like noticeable to others, like where we come from, the color of our skin, and like other things. But there's some identities that like aren't always noticeable that like people need to ask. Like, yeah.
Personally, I think identity is important because it's a reflection of who we are, and it's also how we establish what groups we associate with, like which cultures we communicate with, and how we communicate is heavily influenced by our identities. Identities, traditions, and values are all a super important part of culture, and that's how we communicate with each other is through these identities and traditions.
And this is all key in intercultural communication and understanding how to communicate with others and live well and understand other people's walks of life.
Tradition is a huge part of intercultural communication because it is how we identify who belongs to a community. Knowing to make the sign of the cross and how to accept the Eucharist, as well as receiving ashes, are all part of Catholic cultural traditions. And today, when we received our ashes, we identified ourselves as members of the Catholic community by partaking in Catholic tradition.
And when it comes to identity, a lot of people struggle with one's identity because of how diverse and mixed it can be, and intercultural communication allows us to really dig deep into our background, where we come from, and the roots of our culture and historical locations and everything. And identity is what makes us us, and being able to know how to really dissect what identity is will give us more confidence. Values are fundamental in understanding how cultures express themselves, and values are also a key part in intercultural communication. Values are what guides us in our everyday living, and especially in our behaviors. Values can come from your country of origin, your family traditions, religion, special interest groups, and education. You can learn values literally anywhere. Cultural values, however, are kind of learned subconsciously. They're deeply rooted in our traditions, and they're passed down year by year, and they're just historical after a while. Analyzing values can be a useful way to understand the fundamental differences of cultures, and just understanding the differences in what they believe in, why they practice a certain tradition, and also how they are always different. Analyzing values can be a useful way in understanding different cultures, as well as when it comes to their traditions and what they decide to practice and not, as well as what they believe in and why they think a certain way and how it shapes their ideologies.